So multiple things can be true at once. On one hand, I'm very happy for this West Virginia Mountaineer program. Winning the most games in a single season in program history. Winning the Big 12 regular season championship. But on the other hand, I'm also worried for this team because suffering its first 10-run rule or loss by more than 10 runs in the entire year, the way this program ended the regular season, and then in a really not memorable Big 12 tournament appearance again, and now they're walking into an NCAA Regional. But there might be some bright side there given the opponents and the draw that they have as part of this regional. So thanks for tuning in to another baseball edition of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. I'm Carson Fox. And again, to talk about a West Virginia program who since the year 2017 is now making its fifth NCAA regional appearance, coming off last year of going to its first ever super regional appearance in program history. This this baseball program is slowly emerging into a team or in a program that needs to warrant some national attention. No, this baseball program, dang, I've done that twice now, is not to the level of some of the programs who have storied histories, especially in the Southeastern Conference, or out west and in Oregon State, or some of those West Coast teams that are able to play baseball 12 months out of the year. But West Virginia, with the Midwestern states and the Big Ten, or the Great Lakes states, really not being much of anything, and then the Northeast really either as well. West Virginia, you could say, is really the northern power in the northeastern quadrant of the United States. So now I know there's a lot of population. I know there's a lot of talent. We talk about this, I feel like, with all sports out west and in the South. But man, West Virginia, you have to take them seriously, I feel like, as a program. And if they're able to make some noise in this NCAA Regional against an SEC school, against an ACC school, that's going to be fantastic. And I feel like should pay dividends in the future. Head coach Steve Saban said during one of the in-game interviews, I think it was the Arizona games, talking about the progress he thought that from where West Virginia ended the last season and now winning the Big 12 and what that means, and with the new plyometrics, biomechanics, indoor facility that the program has, there's synergy, there's investment. You can tell that West Virginia just doesn't want to be, they've had this awesome stadium, but now they want to be taken seriously and be an annual contender in the Big 12 conference, or wherever they may go in the future of what college athletics is going to be bringing. But let's quickly now, 3 minutes in, recap the Big 12 tournament. Winning against Cincinnati 10-3. That was a really uneasy game until West Virginia was able to break out in the fourth inning, getting to Marsh. What can you say more? That's why I want to lead this show off talking about Kyle West. He is the offensive captain of this squad. In his last, I think he's a senior, last year in a Mountaineer uniform, he's being awesome. He is that leader. If you want to have him in that two-hole position because you think he's going to get more at-bats, want to get him as many at-bats as humanly possible because he just hits ropes. I mean, when he connects with pitches, the StatCast of statistics of over 100 miles per hour off the bat from him, launching a ball wedged into the seats, into the outfield at Globe Life Field. He was just excellent, I feel like, and has been for several weeks now. So needed that home run. We're able to tag. I'm actually kind of surprised that Cincinnati pulled their starting pitcher as early as he was. Yes, he gave up the solo shot. Then Jace Reinhardt was able to get to first base on a strikeout swinging. It's not the it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other, but watching the pitch really wasn't the pitcher's fault on that. And then he gets pulled, and that's when the reliever came in, got tagged. It's kind of a scary injury comebacker on a ground ball to the jaw, went down hard. He was pulled, for a reliever. And West Virginia, behind the efforts of Griffin Kearns as their starter. You just knew if you could give Griffin Kearns some run support like you didn't in the Kansas series, that West Virginia was going to be able to beat Cincinnati. And I'm going to talk a little bit smack here on these Bearcats. It just seems like West Virginia owns Cincinnati. I'm not only glad that one of our old Big East brethrens are back into this conference, because West Virginia has no rivals and really has no feel for anyone in this league, even after a dozen years in the Big 12 Conference, but to have Cincinnati back, a program that now you beat them in football, you beat them 2 years in a row in football, now you swept them in basketball, swept them in baseball, 4-game sweep into the Big 12 tournament. West Virginia, clap, clap, just owned Cincinnati this year. Love beating those Bearcats, sending them home, packing. They're already looking forward to 2020, the 2026 and beyond. So really nice to beat the Bearcats. Felt very confident. That's why I was like a little bit, really frustrated making dinner last Thursday evening, watching that game on ESPN Plus, and like finally, thankfully, West Virginia was able to break out the bats and get to them. But unfortunately, it was short-lived as West Virginia just could not keep it going offensively into Game 2 against Arizona. Jack Kartsonis tagged for early for five runs in that contest. Just not his best stuff. I think they're the announcers were saying in that game that Saban's talked to him about starting his breaking ball pitches in the zone, and then was approached the batter breaking out of the zone, wasn't starting his pitches in the zone, so they were getting ahead. Arizona was getting ahead in counts, and then Mac Wilson, who I think ended up winning the MVP of the Big 12 tournament, just took him yard for a 3-run shot, and that was about all she wrote. The way West Virginia was hitting the ball, I knew when it was about 5-0, if they couldn't mount any sort of a comeback right there, bringing in Robbie Porco, who did pitch decently the previous weekend. I think that's why Saban's wanted to give him an opportunity on the mound. I know it was kind of went back and forth with somebody on Twitter about this, but I don't put a lot of onus there on Porco. I know his job is to get outs, to put up round numbers, get outs, strike guys out. But when your offense just isn't giving you any sort of a run support, I just feel like this is a moot point. But then to completely fall apart, just kind of give up, I feel like, and suffer your first 10-run, actually ended up being 11, run defeat of the tournament as the number 1 seed, just feels really disappointing. Once again, Big 12 tournament proves to be the house of horrors for West Virginia, and that's all she wrote. No chance on hosting. You can't finish the season the way West Virginia finished and then expect, with all of these teams making up ground in their Big 12 tournament, and you only picked up one extra win against Cincinnati. So don't have the resume, unfortunately, to put up have a number 1 seed, but it might be actually a blessing in disguise. I'll say this now, 8 minutes in. That who knows who you would have run into if you were, say, the 16 seed or 15 seed, who the NCAA would have stacked against you in a home regional. And then the way that West Virginia is playing on the road this season, 23-5, like I said in my recap of the Kansas series, maybe just West Virginia feels pressure taken off their shoulders being away from Morgantown. I know that's counter the home field advantage mantra, but just maybe, they were able to do this last year whenever they went to Tucson for the regional, and then put on a hell of a showing down in Chapel Hill against North Carolina. So I like going on the road. Having gone to the Maryland game in 2021 just feels like, I don't know, it brings out your innermost competitor whenever you are on the road, when you're in I hate the terminology, hostile environment, because it's not like fans are bringing out AKs or anything to games, but this might just be a really good test that West Virginia hasn't necessarily been tested against non-conference opponents that it doesn't have familiarity with. So, early on in the season, they were playing Kennesaw State, Jacksonville, Queens, and they were, crushing these teams. So maybe if they just don't feel that sense of, added pressure of being at home. I know that trying to compare those teams against Clemson and Kentucky, you're like no way, shape, or form. But I think you kind of understand what I mean. Just you're away from home, you're with your team, West Virginia against the world, and we're going to go out there, we're going to put it all out on the line, and that's really what I hope for. Because the last day or so, I was trying to draw some analysis, looking into this regional, kind of previewing it. West Virginia is going to go against the number 3 seed Kentucky. Meanwhile, the host Clemson is going to take on South Carolina Upstate, Jace Reinhardt's old program. So looking at Kentucky, I was looking up and down their schedule, and they were pretty much like a 500 ball club. Now, I know that the SEC is a completely different beast in terms of competition that Kentucky is facing, and this is also a Kentucky program that just waxed West Virginia 2 years ago, 10-0 in an NCAA Regional, so they very well could do that again. But then I'm looking at some of Kentucky's competition in the non-conference, and it wasn't like they were just overwhelming. They played really well at home. So they're not at home. They're the 3 seed in this tournament. So I feel like everything's pretty much all square. And then I look at Clemson, and yeah, they took advantage of some really the bottom feeders of the ACC. So I feel like schedules in different ways benefited all 3 of these teams in this regional. So I feel like gloves are off. May the best man win. Who knows if South Carolina's Upstate comes completely out of nowhere and try and steal a regional win. Now, and also they're very close to home. Clemson being in Upstate South Carolina, so like it's almost a home away from home kind of regional setting for them. But so for West Virginia, you're going to throw Griffin Kern. In a double elimination tournament, depending upon how you feel about your draw, you might try and do some things differently, but I don't think that you should try and change anything up here in a game 1 situation, because I know if you want to win every single game, but you're a week out from when Griffin Kern, like an extra day, so 8 days worth of rest for Griffin Kern. I think stick with him as your number 1, and then hopefully, if you get a victory out of that, you'll be able to pitch Jack Kartsonas. We'll see if Clemson also ends up throwing their number 1 starter against South Carolina Upstate, where they try and save him. So then it's could be a pitcher's duel in that regard, and maybe Kartsonas just learn some things from that effort against Arizona that he'll be able to bring with him to this Clemson regional. But just the number 1 thing, and this is why I didn't want to dive so far deep into this analysis on both of these 2 opponents, because it really doesn't matter who West Virginia plays. They have to hit. They have to get up what they were doing so successfully through their first 40 games of this season, is they need to jump on opposing pitchers early. They need to create havoc on the base paths. They need to try and take extra bases. And unfortunately, just some of West Virginia's best hitters on the season. I'm looking at you, Skylar King. I'm looking at you, Sam White. I'm looking at you, Grant Hussey, even Jace Reinhardt. And they're just not. It can't just be Kyle West and a whole bunch of other guys on the roster. So I don't know what needs to be done. Baseball is a streaky game, as we've seen with the major league games. Sometimes the ball looks like a beach ball, and sometimes it looks like a ping pong ball. So if they're using these early days in the week, try and get right at home, get back into the batting cage. I don't know if they're trying to throw some simulated games or what Steve Saban's tried to do. Maybe he was trying to give the guys days off, do something differently than what they did to prepare for the Big 12 tournament. But for whatever reason right now, West Virginia just, you can't get in a hole early because, again, it gives your pitchers so much more. I've experienced this playing baseball for all of my youth. You have so much more confidence as a pitcher in what you're able to do and can control the game whenever you're pitching with a lead. So to be in the hole, and it just feels like West Virginia going through the motions, I can feel like from that Kansas series. So maybe it was just like hey, we got the regular season Big 12 title wrapped up. I don't believe this. I think you're, as competitors, always wanting to try and go and win there every single game. But for whatever reason, maybe they just saw that the team, that Kansas game, especially once they didn't win the first game of the series against Griffin Kern, they already had what they needed for the regular season title. Who cares necessarily really about the seeding? Who cares really at the end of the day of the Big 12 tournament, even though you're the number one seed? I don't buy this. I don't buy this argument. I feel like West Virginia wants to go out there and try and compete, take names, and win championships. But for whatever reason, they need some sort of ignition spark lit under their butts to go out there and play their hardest. Season could be over. Like, this is like they always saw that there would be more to their season. There would be a Big 12 tournament. Now this is it. It's win or go home. It's all go all the way, as far as you can go, and that's going to be it. And this is just like the NCAA tournament in basketball. I feel like this is why so much of I feel like the regular season gets lost, and then it's all just a preparation for the postseason. You saw all the commercials across ESPN and still on social media all throughout this Memorial Day weekend of college baseball has now taken center stage. So before I feel like we get too far into prep and, SEC meetings, what's going on, Big 12 meetings coming, I think, later this week or early next week, and we're already starting to think toward football for the fall. This is it. This is where baseball takes center stage in the road to Omaha over these next couple of weeks. So for West Virginia baseball, how do you want this season to be remembered? Do you want it to be, in a similar fashion as 2023? Yeah, in that year you won a co-championship. This year you win an outright regular season title, but had a very favorable draw to the schedule. Things broke your way, and when it came down to it, Kansas ended up sweeping you at home and falling one game short. That's not going to matter to anything in the history books, but you get what I'm saying in the context of this season. Then you go to the Big 12 tournament, you're the number one tournament seed, you get 10-run and outed by Arizona. So I think West Virginia, to put a cap on this season, whether it ends with a regional title and then losing in the super regionals, going all the way to the College World Series, what have you, this is it. This is their time. This is their series. Double elimination. So one loss isn't going to mean the world. Before what we've talked about for the last couple of weeks with how this pitching staff has been in flux. It seems like it's Griffin Kern. It seems like it's Jack Cartsonas and a whole bunch of wild cards who need to figure out a whole bunch of crap. And then an offense that has just lost its mojo, needs to take a sip of some Jordan Secret stuff. Get their power back. That's really what they need to do, is get their power back. Can't just be Kyle West. So I'm hoping we'll see what they do in West Virginia's opening game against Kentucky Friday at noon. I feel like West Virginia owes those guys revenge for a couple of seasons ago, feeling really embarrassed in that regional tournament, getting outed. And then if West Virginia takes on Clemson in the second game Saturday at noon, then let's see what happens. So it's going to be a very interesting, hard-fought weekend. I hope that the guys do a lot of soul-searching over these next couple of days in preparation for it. I'm extremely excited, going to be rooting on this team, want to see them do as best as humanly possible, bring home another regional title, and again, continue to make this program one that can be taken seriously nationally. I mean, there are so many afterthought programs, I feel like, in this region of the country. Baseball, baseball, who cares about baseball? But seriously, West Virginia is emerging as that northern power, I feel like, in the mid-Atlantic, northeastern states. Yeah, Charlottesville, Virginia, those guys over there, they've had a really good program for a very long time, but Morgantown more north than them. So I feel like the old Gold and Blue can really prove a statement here in the first season of head coach Steve Saban's. A lot of seniors on this roster had a lot of playing experience in last year's regional in Tucson and then playing in the super regional. So this is their time to shine. This is their time to prove it. This is their time to see some of that better pitching and kind of prove me right from what I talked about a couple of weekends ago, that this is a veteran lineup that should be feared 1 through 9 through the order, Put the ball in the outfield, please. Let's get some extra base hits, not just these, base knock singles. And if you're going to, try and be a little bit more aggressive on the base path. So, love to know your thoughts. How do you feel about these Mountaineers coming into this Clemson Regional? Do you think, is it going to be a regional title? Is it going to be an 0-2 or maybe a 1-2 showing with a win over SC Upstate? How are you feeling? Do you agree with me, though, that West Virginia just has to bring it more offensively, jump on opponents earlier, let Griffin Kern, Jack Kartsonis, and others, really settle in? And then what is West Virginia going to do if it has to get down to a third starter or get deeper into, some of the guys that they have in their bullpen? So, love to know your thoughts. If you like this video, please like it so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube. And if you'd like to, love to have you subscribe to my channel as we, kind of finish out this college baseball season. There's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to follow and talk about here on this channel. And then we'll get back into college football and everything that's going on for the Mountaineers for the 2025 season. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. West Virginia, let's go.